Let's start with the embarrassing and work our way towards the ones that genuinely should not have been possible. Number 10. Kodak inventing the digital camera and burying it. This is Kodak. In 1975, a Kodak engineer named Steve Sasson built the world's first digital camera. It was the size of a toaster, took 23 seconds to capture a single image, and stored it on a cassette tape. It was also obviously the future of photography. Kodak looked at it, understood exactly what it was, and decided not to tell anyone. Their reasoning was completely rational. Kodak made 90% of its profits from film. A digital camera that required no film was from a certain angle, simply a very expensive way to destroy their own business model. So they quietly shelved the invention, kept selling film, and assumed the problem would sort itself out eventually. It did sort itself out. Just not for them. By 2012, Kodak had filed for bankruptcy. The company that invented digital photography was killed by digital photography. Sasson's original prototype is now in a museum. The film business is not. Thankfully, Kodak made plenty of money in the decades between 1975 and 2012. So really, they had a good run. Number 9. Blockbuster passing on Netflix. In 2000, Reed Hastings flew to Dallas to meet with Blockbuster's CEO, John Antioco, and offered to sell Netflix for $50 million. Netflix at the time was a small DVD buy-mail company losing money, and Antioco thought the whole thing was mildly amusing. He passed. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy in 2010. Netflix today is worth somewhere in the range of $300 billion. The $50 million asking price in retrospect was such a bargain it borders on generous. The detail that makes this specific mistake so extraordinary is that Blockbuster didn't just pass on buying Netflix. They also, around the same time, had a functional online rental service called Blockbuster Online that was genuinely competing with Netflix and winning. Then their board decided the streaming business wasn't profitable enough and shut it down to protect short-term earnings. So they passed on buying their competitor, then built their own version, then killed their own version. A remarkable three-step process for a company that had every possible advantage. There is currently one Blockbuster location remaining on Earth. It is in Bend, Oregon. It has a gift shop. Number 8. Nokia dismissing smartphones. For most of the early 2000s, Nokia was the most dominant phone company on the planet. They had over 40% of the global mobile phone market. They had the best hardware engineers in the industry. And internally, they had already developed working touchscreen smartphone prototypes years before Apple announced the iPhone. Then 2007 happened. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and introduced the iPhone. And Nokia's response was essentially that the battery life wasn't impressive and the keyboard was impractical, which were both fair points. Neither of them mattered. By 2013, Nokia's phone business had collapsed so completely that Microsoft bought it for $7.2 billion, spent 2 years trying to make it work, wrote off $7.6 billion in losses, and quietly shut the whole thing down. Nokia managed to get acquired and still lose money for the company that acquired them, which requires a very specific kind of effort. The engineers who had built the smartphone prototypes internally have since confirmed that the technology existed. The decision to not pursue it was a business decision, not a technical one. Thankfully, they made excellent phones right up until the moment it stopped mattering. Number 7. MySpace selling for $580 million and watching Facebook happen. In 2005, News Corp bought MySpace for $580 million, which was considered an extraordinary overpayment at the time. MySpace was the largest social network in the world, had more traffic than Google on certain days, and had every structural advantage a social media platform could possibly have. Then Facebook opened registration to everyone in 2006. Within 2 years, Facebook had passed MySpace in users. By 2011, News Corp sold MySpace for $35 million, a platform they had bought for $1,580 million, to a consortium that planned to turn it into a music website, which is what MySpace eventually became. The $545 million loss is painful enough on its own. The more interesting part is that MySpace had multiple opportunities to either acquire Facebook directly or simply copy its features, and declined both options repeatedly. They had the audience, the infrastructure, and the revenue. They just couldn't figure out what to do with any of it before someone else did. Number 6. Xerox giving away the personal computer. In the 1970s, Xerox operated one of the most advanced research facilities in the world, PARC, where their engineers invented the graphical user interface, the mouse, Ethernet networking, and the laser printer. Essentially, the entire architecture of the modern personal computer was developed inside a single building in Palo Alto by people working for a photocopier company. Xerox did not commercialize any of it. In 1979, Steve Jobs visited PARC and was shown everything. He immediately understood what he was looking at. Apple went on to commercialize the graphical user interface and the mouse and the Macintosh. Microsoft built Windows on the same principles. The personal computer industry that followed generated trillions of dollars, as Xerox made photocopiers. They did eventually release a computer called the Xerox Star in 1981, priced at $16,000 per unit, which was so expensive it didn't sell. So to summarize, Xerox invented the future, showed it to their competitors for free, then released their own version at a price point that guaranteed failure. A thorough effort. Number 5. Yahoo turning down Microsoft for $44 billion. In 2008, Microsoft offered to buy Yahoo for $44.6 billion. This was a significant premium over Yahoo's market value. It was by any reasonable financial measure a very good offer. Yahoo said no. Their CEO Jerry Yang felt the offer undervalued the company and held out for more. Microsoft walked away. Yahoo's board then spent the next several years trying to figure out what Yahoo actually was, cycling through 4 different CEOs in 5 years, each of whom also could not figure out what Yahoo was. In 2016, Verizon purchased Yahoo's core internet business for $4.8 billion, not $44.6 billion, $4.8 billion, for a company that had turned down $44.6 billion 8 years earlier because it wasn't enough. The $39.8 billion gap between what they were offered and what they eventually sold for is a number large enough to suggest that something had gone wrong somewhere in the decision-making process. Just a small observation. Number 4. Decca Records rejecting the Beatles. In January 1962, a young band from Liverpool auditioned for Decca Records in London. They played 15 songs. The label's A&R executive Dick Rowe listened to the whole thing and famously decided that guitar groups were on their way out and that the band had no future in show business. The band was the Beatles. Decca signed another act from the same audition day instead. That act had a modest career. The Beatles went on to become the best-selling music act in history, with estimated record sales of over 600 million units. Rowe spent the rest of his career being referred to as the man who turned down the Beatles, which is the kind of professional legacy that follows a person around regardless of anything else they accomplish. To his credit, he later signed the Rolling Stones, which shows excellent recovery instincts. It just didn't really help with the other thing. Number 3. Ford passing on the Mustang's full potential, the Pinto decision. In the early 1970s, Ford conducted an internal cost-benefit analysis on the Pinto, a budget car whose fuel tank had a known design flaw that could cause it to catch fire in rear-end collisions. The memo, which eventually became public, calculated that it would cost Ford $11 per car to fix the problem across 12.5 million vehicles, a total of 137 million. Thus, Ford also calculated that the expected cost of lawsuits from deaths and injuries caused by the flaw would be approximately $49.5 million. So the math, from a purely financial standpoint, suggested that paying the lawsuits would be cheaper than fixing the cars. They went with the lawsuits. When the memo became public, the resulting scandal was catastrophic. Ford faced massive jury awards, a landmark criminal indictment for reckless homicide, and a reputational collapse that took years to recover from. The total cost of the decision vastly exceeded the $137 million fix. Not to mention the 27 deaths attributed to the design flaw, which made the entire spreadsheet significantly harder to defend in public. Thankfully, the $49.5 million estimate was very precise. The part about what happens when the memo leaks was apparently not included in the analysis. Number 2. Lehman Brothers collapsing the global economy on September 15, 2008. Lehman Brothers filed for the largest bankruptcy in American history, with $613 billion in debt. What followed was the worst global financial crisis since the Great Depression, erasing roughly $10 trillion in household wealth in the United States alone. The short version is that Lehman had spent years making enormous bets on mortgage-backed securities, financial products built on home loans that were being handed out to people who could not realistically pay them back. When the housing market began to collapse, those products became worthless, and Lehman had so many of them that the firm simply could not survive. The longer version involves a decade of deregulation, incentive structures that rewarded short-term risk-taking, and a firm-wide culture that treated the warning signs as someone else's problem. The federal government bailed out most of the other major banks. They let Lehman fail, partly to send a message about moral hazard. The message the market received was slightly different from the one intended, and the resulting panic froze global credit markets for weeks. Around 26 million jobs were lost worldwide in the years following the collapse. The firm's executives collected billions in bonuses in the years leading up to it. These two facts exist in the same timeline. Number 1, Motorola's Iridium satellite network. In the late 1980s, Motorola had an idea. They would launch 77 satellites into low Earth orbit, blanket the entire planet in wireless coverage, and allow anyone anywhere on Earth to make a phone call from a handheld device. The engineering was extraordinary. It took a decade to build. Motorola spent $5 billion constructing a global satellite network that actually worked. The physics were solved. The logistics were solved. The satellites went up. The phone was the size of a brick and cost $3,000. Each call cost between $3 and $8 per minute. The service launched in 1998. By 1999, the company had filed for bankruptcy. The problem was not the satellites. The problem was that while Motorola spent 10 years and $5 billion building a phone network for a world without cell coverage arrived. By the time Iridium launched, ordinary mobile networks had expanded so quickly across the developed world that the $3,000 satellite phone was competing directly with a $100 Nokia in your pocket. The entire network was nearly deorbited and burned in the atmosphere. A group of investors eventually bought the whole thing for $25 million, the satellites, the ground stations, all of it, and repurposed it for government and military use, where it actually works very well. So to summarize, Motorola spent $5 billion building something extraordinary, solved every technical problem in front of them, launched on schedule, and still managed to go bankrupt inside 12 months because the world moved faster than their business plan. Look, I know some of these mistakes sound impossible in hindsight, and honestly, most of them made complete sense at the time. But do you know what every single company on this list had in common? They were all the biggest, most dominant player in their industry at exactly the moment they made the decision that ended them, which should probably be more comforting than it is.